Figured I'd do this while I had the time. I want you to take a look at this right here. This is actually an Ibanez. I'll put a little closer so you can see it. So this is actually an Ibanez Low Pro Trim, and it's going on a guitar that's almost identical. It's got the Yamaha. It's basically a RGZ 621 PR. The only difference between this neck and the other one that I'm working on right now is it's a YG. See, there's no Let It Rock at the top, and but it is the exact same configuration as far as the body, the pick guard, everything else. And I'll show you just a side-by-side comparison of like the neck. You see, it's all pretty much the same. Only thing is it says YG, but like at the neck pocket, it actually does say YG 612, which I don't know if this really made any difference because again, the bodies of these things, the pick guards are exactly universal. As I can show you on the body right here, it's the same pick guard, same thing, and it doesn't really say too much inside that neck pocket, but anyways, so what we're trying to do is determine what tremolos fit these particular guitars because people keep asking me on YouTube when I was doing the comparison videos, and I really didn't know if there was a huge difference. But let's just go ahead and start with this Ibanez Low Pro, which obviously fits on this guitar. So we know, we don't even have to think about it, we know it works. So let's just take this caliper, we'll zero it out, okay? And we've got it set to millimeters right now, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put it between the centers of these two lugs. Just kind of put right about, it's pretty much dead center right there. So we've got 73.4 millimeters, okay? So that would be the center points. Now this is the actual tremolo that would have come on this particular instrument. And you can see them side by side. They're exactly the same. They really are. There's no difference. This has the straight piece over here and then the round piece over here, just like the other one does. So these are identical tremolos. These were manufactured probably in the same factory. If I looked at the back, it would say Takuchi on the back. And they're the same things. They even have the same markings. This is licensed by Floyd Rose. Licensed by Floyd Rose. It's probably the same exact stamp. I mean, these are identical tremolos. So if you ever wonder if the Yamaha TRS Pro is any different than the Ibanez Low Pro Trim, they're not. They're identical. Even these pieces are back, are the same. So now when we put those, as far as where those would be, the centers of where those lugs would be, that's it, right there. It's the same tremolo. I mean, there's absolutely no difference between that. Now the next one, it's up on the block, would be this guy over here. Hold on a second. Now this one is one of the lower end guitars. This is a RGZ 321P. Take a look at this. And this has this is just the TRS 101, okay? But if you look just by looking at it just from straight on, it looks pretty much exactly the same. It does have some differences though. The differences is you can see these right here have this kind of bent piece, you know what I mean? So it can have a lower profile. The difference between the trims, if you look at them side by side, the back of that is more like a original Floyd Rose to where it sticks up really high. This one, as you can see, the profile is really flat. So that gives you a much more comfortable, you know, when you get your palm here and stuff like that, you're not kind of backed up against this thing. It's not really on top of you. But as far as could I throw this tremolo on top of this guitar and make this a 621, that's really the only difference between this guitar, because this neck I found on a 621 was exactly the same, but it says 321. But I pulled a 621 apart and the neck said 321. So they swapped these necks. These actually are exactly the same necks between some of these things. And the bodies, you know, they're just, the cavities are pretty much just open up like that. I did this routing to do something fun with pickups and sliding and stuff. I never really got around to it. But let's take a look at the centers here. There you go. So they are absolutely universal. I could put that Ibanez Low Pro trim on here. I could put this trim on there. And I can even put, this is the crazy fancy one, which is the Yamaha RM Pro 2. You can see right there. All right. And it's got a lot of different other little features, really for locking the intonation down. But if we looked at the center of the lugs where they would be, they're right there. It's the same thing. So I could put this on this guitar as well, and it would be perfectly fine. So the Ibanez Low Pro, the TRS 101, the RM Pro 2, and even the TRS Pro are all universal. They're all the same. The blocks are a little bit different. I've got the block for this right here. This is the only one that really has a lot of different details because of the way that it locks. It's got all these like patents and stuff like that. But those are where the springs go. This is actually where it connects to the bottom side of this guy. All right. But what makes this one unique is that the tremolo has this block on the back. Okay, it's not where you feed the strings. These will hold individual screws, and it will kind of go under this platter like this, and it will sit down underneath this, and you don't really see it when it's recessed. That's the only thing that's the downside about this trim, is you'd have to fold the trim way up like this, get the screw where you need it, and then lock down the saddle. And what it basically does is it keeps the saddles from ever popping forward, you know, because these screws sometimes will get a little bit loose, and then while you're playing or bending or playing really hard, things will pop forward, and then your intonation's screwed for the rest of the song, so you've got to stop your set and actually break out your Allen wrenches and do all that kind of stuff, which is impossible to do when you're, you know, doing it live. So this right here is kind of a unique solution to that, but the problem is this is recessed into the cavity, so you can't really get to it when you're actually tweaking it. So you have to bring the whole trem forward and everything like that, and then you've got to do the adjustment to the thing, lock it in place to bring it back. So once it's set up, it's actually pretty good. But a lot of things that some things that people don't really understand is that strings can go bad and strings can become deformed. And putting on a new set of strings, even though you set your intonation to where it was good on the last set of strings, if you switch from 10s to 9s, or maybe light top heavy bottoms, or you just broke a high E string and then the one was in there. It just, the point is you go from Ernie Ball or you go from DiMarzio, the actual strings are going to be different, even on a microscopic level. So you have to keep that stuff in mind when you're going to be dealing with intonation. So I don't like having these intonations things completely locked, because I have to go through so much rigmarole every time I switch my strings, you know, to do that. So it's an over-engineered piece of a tremolo. A lot of people like these things. If you do use them and you do use the trem bar a lot, I lock all my trems. I know you think it's crazy that I have so many friggin' guitars with tremolos, but I like having the fine tuners, and also having like the ability to just be able to use these things anytime I need them. And by the way, these saddles are not the original saddles. The saddles that were supposed to be on this were similar to this, but the problem was they cracked. And so they were made with cheaper parts. And so that's why this particular tremolo is kind of like, it's not really made with the same quality hardware. So this is a substantial, this is my favorite tremolo. It's basically the same thing as the Low Pro Trim and all that kind of good stuff. But what I ended up doing, which is kind of brilliant, is I bought these particular screws for the saddles, and you can string through them and bring them over there. So this can still be used as a tremolo. I've got it, again, locked, which you can see, I think, from the back. I use like a business card and some tape, and I just pull the strings as far forward as I possibly can, and that keeps it from rocking, and I can tune it and do drop tunes and all sorts of different things. But I can still use the fine tuners. So it's kind of cool. But hey, to each his own, do what you want. But I was just letting you know, that's the comparison. So these right here are basically universal tremolos. So if you want to replace one of your tremolos, whether it be a TRS 101, a TRS Pro, RM2 Pro, what are all that kind of stuff, you can universally swap them with anything you want. So if you want to upgrade this guitar, put new pickups on it, the neck is outstanding. Anybody that has a 321 or 621 or 521 or 421, they're all going to be very similar to this neck. They're excellent guitars. You know, the pickups are going to be a little bit lower quality on this guitar. The hardware obviously is going to be a little bit lower quality, but that being said, you're going to get this guitar for $150 versus, you know, $500 for something. So, you know, after you buy this and the pickups and everything like that, that you customize it, you know, there you go. You got a custom guitar, you know, for still pennies on the dollar for what these things actually can do. So anyways, hope that video helped, and like and subscribe. Yeah.